Good afternoon, everyone. It is indeed great to be here. Mr. Kim, thank you for the opportunity and the privilege to serve in this capacity, and to all of the leadership at CAO who do a phenomenal job every single day. I currently serve as your Chief Operating Officer for the Community Action Organization of Western New York, which really is just, again, what Mr. Spencer just talked about. Mr. Kim has the vision, and I am here to carry out that vision, take those ideas, break them down into actionable items, and then make sure that we all execute those things flawlessly with fidelity. And our staff, we do that. You all do that. Let me talk about one thing, and I'm going to sit down, but I have to mention Yabin Gompa, who runs our compliance department, who could not be here because she's taking care of family out of town. She is a phenomenal individual who ensures that all of us are on point, so to speak, and her staff is here. Venicia, wave your hand. Venicia is the manager for compliance. But let me talk about one thing, and I want to talk about a rock. And you may be asking yourselves, what is so interesting about a rock? There's really nothing interesting about a rock other than the fact that over time, a lot of things came together to make this really, really hard object that usually has no use. And over time, it's become something that people would typically have to break down in order for it to be manageable. Well, one day, a king took a huge rock and he placed it in the pathway. And all of his merchants, all of his vendors, they all walked around this rock that the king placed in the pathway. One day, a peasant came. He had his bag on his shoulder. He saw the rock in the path. He put his bag down. He tried to move the rock. He moved the rock. He pushed the rock. It took everything he had to get this rock out of the path. After he went back to go pick up his bag from the side of the road, he noticed that where the rock lays was a satchel. In this satchel were hundreds of gold coins. And the moral of the story is, if you see something that could be obstructing a pathway, just because you may not benefit from moving it, there is a benefit to moving it. And he benefited because he was able to move the rock. Now listen, all of us have hard things in our lives. Every one of us has a story. And all of us have a rock to move. But underneath the rock that is being moved is a treasure. And we don't know what that treasure looks like. That treasure could be those elusive thank yous that somebody said we don't get too often. Those treasures could be just someone giving you a hug, even though many of us, or someone by the name of Brandy, does not like hugs. It could be anything. But you don't know what treasure you might unearth if you just move the rock out of the path. And a lot of our clients, a lot of our families, they have things in their path that it may not benefit us to move, but it will benefit them. And the treasure that we receive after we move it is invaluable. Now let me just share this last story with you, because I love to tell stories, and I'll be out of your way. But there was a man who lived by himself on the side of a mountain in the middle of nowhere. He was kind of an, what you call those folks, introvert. He didn't really like to be around people. And this is a true story. He lived on the edge of this mountain, and one day as he lived on this mountain, there was a mudslide. And as the mudslide came down, a boulder, huge boulder, rolled in front of this man's front door. He only had one door. And all the windows were covered with mud, so he couldn't get out the window. So the man went to his room, he got on his knees, and he prayed to God, and he said, God, what am I supposed to do with this boulder in front of my door? I cannot get out of my house. The man thought he was going to die there. He had enough food in his cabinet and his cupboard to only last him about 6 or 7 months. Well, the man, after he got up from praying, God said to the man, just push the rock. So the man got up. Everybody say push. Oh, I said everybody. Everybody say push. God said to the man, push the rock. The man got up every morning and he pushed the rock. He went to bed, he got up the next morning and he pushed the rock. True True story. He got up the next morning and pushed the rock. This happened for several months until he looked in his cabinet and realized his food was getting low. So he went back in his bedroom, got on his knees, and he prayed some more. He said, God, I'm running out of food, and you got me pushing this rock. The rock isn't moving. What am I supposed to do? God said, push the rock. Y'all say push. Everybody didn't say push. Say push, y'all. So he pushed the rock some more. A few more months went by. Lo and behold, the man took his last can of tuna out of the cabinet. So he went back to go pray and said, God, I'm out of food. What am I supposed to do? I'm going to starve in this house, and you got me over here pushing this rock that ain't moving. God said, go push the rock. So the man said, all right, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to push the rock. So he went to go push the rock. A few more days went by. He felt the earth shake. And as the earth shook, the big rock moved and just rolled right out of the way. And as the rock rolled out of the way from in front of the door, the man walked up to the door to look and see what happened. Another mudslide had came and removed the rock. But as the rock moved, here's a huge buck, a deer, just ran in his house. And the man didn't know what to do. So he grabbed the buck, this huge deer, by his antlers. Is that what you call them? He grabbed him by his antlers, and he wrestled with the buck. And he subdued the buck. And he killed the buck. And he ate the buck. And he had enough food to last him for more than 6 months. So God said, well, now, I need you to go to your room now and look in your mirror. The man said, okay. I went to the mirror. He looked in there and he said, what do you see? You see muscles that you never had before. You've gotten stronger than you ever thought you were before. When you don't realize what you are pushing against doesn't move, it's not so that you must move it, it's so that God can get you to get stronger. Sometimes it feels like when we're pushing the rock and it's not moving. Sometimes it feels like we're not making any progress. But God is getting you to exercise muscles that you never used before. So that when something comes in your life, you're able to use the strength that you used when you thought you were doing nothing to do something great. And now all of you in here, even though you were pushing a rock that didn't move, you all are doing a work that's making you stronger and you better. And when we all do it together, we got a long way to go. Somebody said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So what we're going to do is all of us have these rocks in our lives. We're going to push the rock. It may not look like the rock is moving, but we're going to what? Push the rock. Now, if I was in church, I would say push means pray until something happens. But because we're not in church, I'm going to tell you to persist until something happens. So even though you may be pushing up against something that seems like it's not moving, push. Y'all say pushing here. I feel like closing. But anyway, sometimes it feels like you can pray for something and nothing's happening. And I was just talking to someone earlier, and just because you can't see something happening doesn't mean nothing isn't happening. Because while you're pushing, God is doing something. And just because you can't see that something does not mean something isn't happening. And watch this last thing. I promise you I'm going to be done after I say this. If you're not doing something, there's nothing for people to talk about. You want to know why they're always talking about me? Because I'm always doing something. You know who always talking? The people who ain't doing nothing. So, if I was in church, I would say, let me say how I feel it. But anyway, the bottom line is, the more people talk about you, it only gives you confirmation that you are doing something. And if you're not doing anything and no one's talking about you, you must not be doing anything. I can't can't remember if it was Martin Luther King, but somebody said, they asked their mentor, how do I know if I'm doing it right? The mentor said, you know you're doing it right when somebody's trying to take you out. Watch this. If they're not trying to take your job, you must not be doing your job great. Because nobody wants something that looks like nothing. Everybody wants something that looks like something. You know why they want my spot? They want my spot because I make my spot look good. You know what else? I don't need the spotlight. When I show up, I light up the spot. And that's why they don't like you, because you have a spotlight that when you walk in a room, things get different. When you walk in a room, people's lives change. When you...